Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 17th annual Blair County Sports Hall of Fame induction banquet. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Stan Savran, and I will be your MC for the evening. As Jim Gregory mentioned, I'm the only MC the banquet has ever had, and that's primarily because Neil couldn't find anyone else who was willing to do it, and he knows that I'm always available. I have nothing better to do. But I'm truly glad to be here. It's hard to believe that we started this 29 years ago. And it's amazing to me that all of you have aged and I haven't. I don't know how that happened. The reason I keep coming back is because thankfully they asked me, and they've had 16 other opportunities to fire me and haven't done it yet. But I keep coming back because this banquet is all about community. As you sit there and think about why you're here, it's not all about me. It's really about us. It's about our heritage as a community. And we pay tribute to those who excelled through talent and dedication and a sense of family and community. Now, most of you here are not enshrined in the Blair County Hall of Fame, but everyone who has been inducted or will be inducted tonight will tell you that they would not be there in the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame without your support. Each and every one of you, whatever their individual stories are, you are a big part of the people who have been inducted and will be inducted tonight. And by the time we're done this evening, we will have reached 90 inductees into the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame. So give yourselves all a big hand. We'd like to introduce, before we officially begin the program, those members who have been inducted into the Hall of Fame and those who have played an integral part in the formation and the continuation of the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame. A guy who took a chance on me as the MC, he probably lived to regret it. The Hall of Fame's first president who laid the foundation for the Hall of Fame, Steve Sheets. They'll all come by, continue your rounds of applause. Also a past Hall of Fame president from 1995 to 2013. We did honor him at our last banquet. That doesn't mean we'll never mention him again. Dave Andrews. An inductee from the class of 1998. Joe Paterno's first captain at Penn State, Mike Irwin. 2010 inductee, former Penn State football player Bill Hoover. 2006 inductee and coach of the 1966 Williamsburg team, which we will honor later tonight, Dick Buckley. And speaking of Williamsburg, 2012 inductee Don Appleman. Four-time PIAA champion, 2002 inductee, and a presenter tonight, Art Tannehill. Former West Virginia swimmer and 2008 inductee, Renee Riccio McCutcheon. Riccio, my mistake. I think I did that in 2008, too. Former Penn State, better not mess this one up. Former Penn State gymnast and 2008 inductee, Nadine DeLeo Buchanan. You don't want to be on the bad side of the DeLeos, right, Neil? Long-distance runner extraordinaire and 2014 inductee Dave Patterson. Six-time Pennsylvania Golden Gloves champion and ex-pro boxer, 2014 inductee Tommy Wilt. Dun, 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 dun. From our very first class in 1987, 12-year NFL center and All-Pro, Ed Flanagan. And a couple of special introductions. She was just named the new athletic director at St. Francis University, Susan Robinson Fruchtel. Susan? And I want to just mention something special about this introduction. all of us lived through some very bad times following the Pittsburgh Pirates. 20 years of it, and it seemed like it would never end. And now that it has, we kind of forget about what it was like until this gentleman and his team took over the team, and now they're gunning for their 4th playoff appearance in a row, and maybe we'll have a parade in November in Pittsburgh. The president of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Frank Coonley. Frank, thank you. And finally, the man who has coached the Bishop Guilfoyle Catholic High School football team to consecutive PIAA football championships and a current 32-game unbeaten streak, Justin Wheeler. He looks like a coach, doesn't he? Absolutely. As I mentioned, the first induction banquet was 1987, and I don't remember what the crowd was back then, but I don't think it was anything like this. And we're so happy to be at the Blair County Convention Center. What a magnificent facility. And let's give them a big hand for the dinner. They're wonderful. But it all started well before the first induction banquet. A group of dedicated Blair County citizens got together and said, we need to begin honoring our own. How can we do it? Let's have a Blair County Sports Hall of Fame. This area, of course, is steeped in sports tradition. It matters a great deal to us. This is probably the best way to go about it. And so a small committee, we mentioned Steve Sheets and Dave Andrews and others, it all began at that point. And on the committee initially was a scrawny Cub reporter for the Altoona Mirror, whose main job was to cover marbles tournaments and go fetch Jim Lane coffee. That's pretty much what Neil did. But he also was a founding father of the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame. Now, he's not so scrawny. He's not a Cub reporter for the Altoona Mirror. He runs the whole damn paper. He is the editor, not the sports editor, not the toy department, but the editor of the Altoona Mirror. I'm so proud of him. He has been the single constant on the committee. And now Jim has to go get his own damn coffee. It is my pleasure to introduce the president of the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame, my treasured and dear friend, Neil Riddell.
Thank you, Stan. I don't think I ever saw Jim Lane drink a cup of coffee. I'm sure I speak for everybody here in saying we never want to have a Blair County Sports Hall of Fame banquet, Stan, without you. Welcome, Hall of Fame supporters. Tonight we are set to usher in another wonderful class of accomplished athletes and sports figures as we bring our total number of inductees to 90 in the 17 inductions and 31 years since we first sat down in Dave Andrews' living room in 1985. 4 of us, along with Steve Sheets, Dave, and the late Bernie Dembert, somehow became 800 plus. Thank you for this incredible embrace of the Hall of Fame over 3 decades. Tonight, in addition to our individual inductees, we will be inducting the 1958 and 1966 boys basketball teams from Williamsburg, the first 2 PIAA champions in Blair County history. With more than 175 people on hand from Williamsburg, I'm here to report that the town has been closed tonight in honor of the community's love of basketball. Indeed, we're all in Blue Pirate heaven. Thanks to Don Appleman and Richard Tate for their assistance in the coordination of the Williamsburg teams, and to Tricia Gates and Kelly Goodman Schaefer for the documentary you'll be seeing. I'd also like to thank Jim Steiner for the caricatures that he's now drawn all 90 of our inductees. Thank you, Jim. As usual, we'll also honor 2 more scholarship winners, and we'll present our Community Service Award. A special welcome to our featured speaker, ESPN's Jay Bilas. Jay has become the leading authority on college basketball and college sports at the network. We actually considered inviting NCAA President Mark Emmert to debate some of Jay's positions on all things college sports, including the past going-ons at Penn State. But that suggestion was unanimously rejected by our board of directors. There was, however, an unconfirmed report that Emmert was spotted by the Mirror helicopter in the convention center parking lot earlier this afternoon. He was immediately escorted off the property by Barry Kumpf. Thankfully, Jay will have the floor to himself a little bit later. I'd like to thank our board and the selection and scholarship committees. We'd be remiss tonight if we didn't mention Dean Rossi, senior member of our selection committee and someone we all looked up to. Dean passed away suddenly in November, but not before participating in the selection of this year's class. The Hall of Fame and the sports community miss him. We've added some new items to our memorabilia display at the Summit Tennis and Athletics Center this morning, and I encourage you to visit. Thank you to the Summit for our great partnership. New to the Hall of Fame this year is our website. Thanks to Ed Kruger and Lance Kerouic of the Altoona Mirror and EasyToUse.com for their support, and to Matt Clapper, who built this really cool site, as you can see, that will capture our past and enhance our future. Special recognition, of course, to Kathy Millward for everything she does and how much she means to the Hall of Fame. As our inductees, past and present, will attest, Kathy is a master of juggling all the details. Kathy, would you please stand? There have been many rankings of sports towns over the years, fun lists comparing big cities with professional teams. Where we fit in among smaller-sized towns is a topic for another night. But a couple things are certain. The achievement of the athletes in our Hall of Fame can stack up against cities much bigger than we are. Local support not only of the Curve, who play in the Eastern League's smallest market, but of so many high school teams and long-standing recreation leagues like Mansion Park and Hollidaysburg Summer Basketball, the Kelly Federation and the City League, help make Altoona and Blair County unique. So too does being able to fill this convention center every 2 years. As the great Bobby Riggs said as a presenter here for Bill Parsons in 1988, quote, "There can't be a half dozen communities in the country that treat their athletes better than you do here in Blair County. Whether you're part of a corporate table that renews every 2 years, a regular patron, or someone who bought one ticket and are here tonight for the first time, you are why the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame is so special. Thank you and enjoy the evening."
Thank you, Neil. I have a feeling that Mark Emmert would want no part of a one-on-one debate with Jay Bilas, so a parking lot or not, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Community service, we talked about this being all about community, and the Sheets family is kind of a first family of the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame. You've already met our first president, Steve, and his nephew, Joe, has continued on with the tradition, not just at the Sheets Company, but also here in Blair County. He's carried on the tradition. He's very active in the Altoona Little League. He played for and was mentored by this year's winner of the Community Service Award. Here to present this year's Community Service Award winner, Carl Cacciotti, please welcome Joe Sheets.
Carl started 40 years ago when the Altoona Little League played right outside the 4Ds Lounge at the Pleasant Valley Bowling Alley at the old Joe Riley Field, and was one of the instrumental people in having the new field constructed when the 17th Street project came right through the old field. But it's way more than that. I mean, Carl is just a legend there, not only with the other coaches, but with all the kids. He drove this great 1970s station wagon, and it was always full of kids. And most of them were his own, but he was always full of kids. And when Carl would pull up to the field, you could always expect 8 or 9 to get out. And as time went on, I got to know him pretty well, since my dad managed against him for 16 or 17 years. And it remained the same. He was always different than the other managers. I mean, he wanted to win as much as anybody, but it wasn't just all about winning. You could tell it was about teaching the kids things a little bit beyond baseball. And he always kind of served as that adult role model for a lot of kids that needed that in their life. You know, when it was time for my son, Casey, to play Little League, I remember going to my father, and it was when he was sick. It was actually the last year he was alive. And I said, hey, Casey's getting ready to start Little League. I don't think I'm going to be able to manage. I'm not going to have the time. I'm going to spend time helping the league and serving in that capacity, but I don't have time to manage. And he said, if you can't spend the time doing that, I think he should probably play for Carl. He does things the right way. And so I had the opportunity to talk to Carl, and he had actually wanted to talk to me because he wanted to ask if Casey would be his bat boy. And being a bat boy in Little League means that's the team you'll eventually play for. So I was very thrilled that that was the case. And I got to be Carl's assistant coach for 4 years. And it was a great 4 years. I mean, we were good. We made the playoffs every year, made the finals a few times, and made the Dean Patterson Little World Series every year. But it was about a lot more than that for Carl. Carl spent as much time as we coached together working on kids' self-confidence, making sure every player on that team knew what their role was and had a role to play. I remember Carl would never coach the bases. All the other managers coached the bases, but Carl was in the dugout with his scorebook. But he was there for a reason. He always had the bat boy or the youngest kid sitting right next to him, so he could be teaching them what was going on out in the field. And at the same time, he wanted to be in there with the players who weren't in the game so he could keep their head in the game because they were getting in. And he wanted them to know when they got in, they needed to be ready. So my dad was right. After 4 years, I knew Carl does it the right way. And at this time, it's my pleasure to present the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame Community Service Award to Carl Cacciotti.
To choke me up, please. Joe, you're out there. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, I want to thank the sports committee for giving me this award. And I'm so grateful and honored that I'd be thought about. Never thought I would. But, you know, you always have to have someone in your corner. So I got a couple. My wife, Linda. She's my strength. She's my direction. So today I said, Linda, I can't do this. I talked to 15 kids. I can't talk to 800 people. She said, listen, I'll write it down for you in case you have a senior moment. Thanks a lot. Lynn, I didn't have a senior moment. I lost the paper. Well, that goes with age. My family, all 24 of them, are sitting here waiting for me to make a mistake. Gotcha. They've always been behind me. And then you go back to the players, the coaches, past and present. Joe Sheets was one of the greatest guys I was around. We played the game in its purity. He had a thing about him that when you played Joe,
you were going to play baseball. There was no nonsense, and I enjoyed every minute that I played it. All these coaches and players that I've had have all given me a moment or two or three of memories that I'll never, never forget. Then there's the organizations that donate to our cause. Now, the Masonic Lodges, 281, 490, and 616 have been my sponsor for 30 years. So that made it a lot easier for me rather than going out looking for sponsors. Friends I met on the first day I walked, like Joe Sheets, it's lasted a lifetime of memories and of goodwill, and I see these guys every day, and the kids come up and say, thanks, Coach. Not for coaching me, but just thanks for being there. The other thing that I really would like to speak about are volunteers. We all have seen them. The first time I met them, they told me, this is tough, but everybody seems to have volunteers. You know, just think how many professional athletes we have and how many of them had a volunteer actually teach them. You know, the volunteers I met are just average guys, just like Joe, spend their time, their precious time, just for one reason, to go through the game, and after the thing's over, or whatever you do as a volunteer, you step back and your reward is the satisfaction that you got out of being a volunteer. Then you get a bonus once in a while. The guy says thank you, he shakes your hand, pats you in the back, might even give you a hug. These are the things that volunteers do and go on about their business. Me, I've been blessed in so many ways, it's unbelievable. I'm thankful for this award. It's special, it'll always be special for me. And if I may, I have a little guy who has a birthday today. Rocco, happy birthday, buddy. He's 7 years old. And with that, I wish you well. Have an enjoyable evening. Smile. Be careful going home, and God bless.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Remember that community I spoke about? Guys like Carl are what makes it go. Guys exactly like him. And I'm here to tell you, he didn't have one note, although how unusual for a wife to tell a husband what to say. That hardly ever happens in my recollection. I was thinking about this as I was getting ready for the banquet tonight. The winners of our inaugural scholarship winners now are in their mid-40s. And they probably are yelling at their kids like their parents yelled at them. And how many remember your parents yelling at you, wait till you have kids, you'll see. That's kind of the way it works out. But those kids are now in their mid-40s. Really hard to believe. And I think one of the best things we do is to offer the scholarship awards to the scholar athletes in Blair County. I think it's one of the most meaningful things we do. And here to present this year's awardees, Denny Dahl from Reliance Bank.
Thank you, Stan. First of all, what a great night. Thank you all for being here, and I'm proud to be representing our bank this evening. To all the honorees this evening, congratulations. Tonight, I have the distinct honor of recognizing two student athletes. The scholarship the bank provides are representative of our culture and the values we feel are important, and tonight's recipients certainly meet the test of those values. This is my fourth year participating in this process. And the candidates that we look at every year, we get two candidates from each of the schools in the county. And they never cease to amaze me of the academic and the athletic success that they've had. but the sheer energy that it has to take to do all the things that they do every day is just amazing. And our recipients this year are certainly no exception. Our first recipient is from Tyrone Area High School. Her name is Erica Voisey. She's the daughter of Pat and Frosty Voisey. She's ranked second in her class. She has a 4.29 GPA, and she spent more than 130 hours volunteering in community service projects. She's an active member of her church group. She's a two-time recipient of the High Excellence STEM Award. She's a two-time PIAA gold medalist in the high jump. She's won 3 District 6 gold medals in the high jump, and she finished second in the 2015 New Balance Nationals. She's a two-time New Balance All-American as well. Erica serves as a vice president of her senior class and is involved in various school clubs, including Student Council, National Honor Society, and she's a member of the mock trial team. Please join me in congratulating Erica.
First off, I'm very honored and grateful for this award, and I'd like to thank the Reliance Bank, and I also like to thank the Sports Committee of the Blair County. And I would definitely also like to thank my family. And one of the most important people in my life would probably be my older sister, Kendra. And she's always been there for me. And she actually, I call her my assistant coach, because she's always, even when she's in college, she comes and supports me at my track meets, which is awesome. And I'd also like to thank my coaches and my families and friends for always believing in me and pushing me academically and athletically to follow my dreams. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our second recipient this evening is from Bellwood Annis High School, and that is Nathan Davis. Nathan is a son of Todd and Shelley Davis. He's ranked 12th in his class, carries a 4.0 GPA. He is a graduate of Leadership Blair County Youth, a program that's near and dear to my heart. He's the president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He's won 8 varsity letters for basketball and track. He's a 2,000-point scorer for Bellwood Annis High School, and he's the record holder with 2,049 points. I believe that's third in the history of Blair County, if I'm not right, if I'm not correct. He was a member of the District 6 AA basketball championship team and also the District 6 4x400 relay team. And he is also a 3-time first team intercounty conference honoree in basketball and track. Nathan was a second team All-State selection in basketball in 2015. And again, with 2,049 points, he ranks third in Blair County history. He's a member of the National Honor Society, president of the Key Club, and he's won a Keystone Press Award. And I think he's talking about communications as a career, which is outstanding. He volunteers for the Salvation Army and for the Northern Blair County Rec Center in youth basketball as well. He will be attending Seton Hill University on an athletic scholarship in the fall. Please join me in congratulating Nathan.
Good evening, and at first I'd just like to welcome and congratulate all of the Hall of Fame inductees tonight, both past and present, and I'd like to thank the Scholarship Committee and Reliance Bank for the honor this evening. This actually isn't my first Hall of Fame banquet. My mom has been inducted into 3 Hall of Fames in the state of Indiana, her high schools, the counties, and the state itself. But at those banquets, I could kind of just act like a little kid and not really pay attention to what was going on, so it's definitely a little different being up here in front of everybody. So, my athletic career at Bowood has consisted of many ups and downs, just as any athlete's does. But I'm very blessed, however, to have had many more ups in my 4 years as a Blue Devil than downs. The turnaround basketball season, my junior year, was undoubtedly one of the best memories that I was able to experience, going from 5 wins the previous year to 20 in the next. And this year was something like a storybook ending for me and my career. It was great to have a nice regular season and then fight our way through the District 6 playoffs and ultimately meet up with our longtime rival, West Branch, who I've been playing against since I was 5 or 6 years old, and to come out victorious. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank all the people and places that made me into the person I am today. The Bowood-Annis community as a whole has been second to none over my years, and it's been the most supportive base I could ever ask for. Mr. Schreier and Coach Hayes, thank you for all you've done for me. The list goes on, all the way back to my freshman year, so thank you very much. My church family, Doug and Sue Miller, who are here somewhere back there, they've helped me a lot to grow spiritually and mold me into the person that I am today. My coaches, Coach Gerwert and Coach Lovrich, they've instilled in me the importance and value of hard work and determination, and they've helped me grow into a better player and athlete every single year in high school. And finally, my mother, my father, and my brother Noah. I know for a fact, without even one of you, I could not have accomplished the things I did or become the person I am today. You taught me discipline, compassion, and respect. The hours you spent on me, whether it was to improve my jump shot or ball handling, or most importantly, to make me into a better person, you 3 have been there since day one. So thank you. I love you all and always will. So thank you again to everybody.
Outstanding. I think our future is in good hands. Even though this event only occurs every 2 years, we do award scholarships on an annual basis. And one of our 2015 scholarship winners, Anna Holland, is in the audience this evening. Anna, would you stand up and be recognized, please? She's in the back. Thank you, Anna. And thank you, folks.
Thank you, Denny. Let's have a big hand for Erica and Nathan. Okay, everyone who had a 4.29 GPA in high school, raise your hand. Anybody? Just Erica? Okay. The rest of you are lying, I know that. And Nathan, as I represent the present, more likely the past in communications, believe me, there's plenty of room for you to do better, so lots of luck in that. I'm interested to hear the kids and everybody mention their coaches, and I was thinking about this. What is a coach? Well, basically, he's a teacher, Carl. He's a mentor. He's sometimes a friend. He can be a surrogate father. He's an ardent critic and your biggest supporter, all in the same. He tells you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. In fact, before I ended up doing whatever it is I do, I wanted to be a teacher and a coach. There are thousands of kids who are silently applauding that I didn't. Of course, there are hundreds of thousands of people who said, boy, I wish that guy would have become a coach. One of the best coaches ever in this area or any area is our next presenter. John Franco is in the Pennsylvania Coaches Hall of Fame. He led Tyrone High School to the 1999 PIAA football championship and coached here at Altoona High. He's still coaching at the St. Joseph's Institute in State College. Here to present Thom Geishauser, Coach John Franco.
Thom Geishauser, the Golden Goose. Thom was my idol growing up in the prospect section of Altoona, more affectionately known as Dutch Hill, where he got his nickname. But I truly believe Thom's one of Blair County's finest football players ever. He starred for Tom Irwin's Marauders in the late 60s. He was an all-state running back and defensive back, and he also made the prestigious Big 33 game. These exploits earned him a Division I scholarship, as you know, to West Virginia, where he played under the legendary Bobby Bowden, and was a 2-year starter, great player for them. Led West Virginia in interceptions in 1972, and a lot of people don't realize he was second in the nation in 1972, and he is still ranked second in Mountaineer history in interceptions for one season. These exploits earned him a shot in the NFL with the New York Giants, and I have no doubt he would have made the NFL had it not been for some severe leg injuries. But when I think of Thom Geishauser, I think of Mansion Park, Altoona, October 4th, 1968. DeMatha Catholic comes into town to play an undefeated Bishop Guilfoyle team, but DeMatha was nationally ranked, big-time high school football team, again led by its own legendary coach in Morgan Wooten, who most people remember from the basketball end. The year before, DeMatha had spanked BG pretty handily, and they started the game out, and the first half looked like a repeat of the same. BG goes down 20-7 at halftime, and second half was just a performance for the ages by Thom Geishauser. He almost single-handedly dominated the game. He outscored, outrushed, out-tackled, out-kicked. He did everything, and he even blocked a punt for a safety in leading Bishop Guilfoyle to a tremendous upset 23-20 win over DeMatha. I still think it ranks as one of Blair County's biggest upsets ever, if not the biggest. And Thom dominated the game probably like no other high school player I've seen. And I've seen a lot of great ones over the years. But Thom was something else, very special. And he coached with me for several years, but he's been a lifelong friend. And I am so proud to be able to honor him here this evening. I am so happy that Blair County has chosen him. So I would like to present for induction into the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame, Thom the Golden Goose Geishauser.
Ladies and gentlemen, please know that my Adrian's name is Sarah. My special gift from God, the lovely lady there, number 7, table number 7. Thank you, Coach Franco, for your gracious presentation. I really appreciate it. Distinguished Board of Directors, Mr. President, committee men and women, honored Hall of Famers, fellow inductees, Mr. MC, feature speaker Bilas, beloved family, treasure friends, and welcome guests. I am both honored and humbled to receive this award, but I must emphasize that for me, this is not a celebration only of me, but of we. Many, many people played an integral part in any and all success that I may have had. You know, this area has produced some mighty fine athletes and many outstanding football players over the years. And by chance, for me to be mentioned in the litany of names, even if on the back end and in a faint whisper, is an incredible feeling. Due to time restraints, I cannot acknowledge all here tonight who have helped me, but do know that I personally have tried my best to thank each and every one that I could, and to recognize as many as possible for their inspiration. With that said, however, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize some. Foremost and always, I wish to thank the good Lord for all that he has done for me and continues to do for my family and I. My father, Carl, was a world-class sprinter speed. He set the bar. Then my brother Bernie moved it a notch higher. And it was he who was my first inspiration and my motivation. Next, I'd like to thank my former coaches, my teammates, and classmates for standing by me and having my back throughout it all. Bob, Linda, Kay, and my former classmates who nominated me and petitioned it a Hall of Fame. Three great friends in Sandy, Mike, and Bill, who stood by me in good times and in bad. Mike Irwin was my defensive backfield coach at BG back in the day, who helped mold me into the DB that I became. Mr. John Riley, my former athletic director, who without his belief in me, I'd probably be still roaming around Dutch Hill aimlessly. My mentor, my coach, and my friend, and the most influential person in my life, both in and out of football, was Mr. Ron Hoover. Coach Hoover passed away nearly 9 years ago, but his memory echoes on forever in me. Thanks to all of you, I am truly grateful. My two boys, Corey and Brett, have grown into two fine young men and two great fathers, of whom I'm awfully proud. Corey and his wife, Jen, my wonderful daughter-in-law, have given me two marvelous grandchildren in Morgan and Michaela, and Brett, two fabulous girls in Ava and Jenna. These four girls, Pappy's angels, know just how to bring a smile to my heart. With Brett tonight is his lovely friend Dee. Each of these 8, along with Sarah, my special angel, have been true gifts to me, of whom I treasure dearly. My son Brett, who too may be honored someday here by the Hall of Fame, had a mighty fine football career, and being recognized by the Elton Amir as its 1993 Regional Defensive Player of the Year. A 4-year starter at DB for Slippery Rock University, placing on the Division II All-American team, and finishing in the top 10 nationally in both kickoff returns and interceptions. Now Brett coaches the young men at Bishop Guilford Catholic High School as their defensive coordinator, who helped bring about 2 back-to-back state Pennsylvania football championships, and whose 2015 team threw 8 defensive shutouts. Brett, too, is an accomplished businessman as proprietor of Apex, Academy of Performance and Exercise, the place to go in Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania, for sports and fitness. My son Corey is one of the most gifted and talented young men that I have ever seen. He has an extraordinary gift to make young and old around him feel special, and he can make even the saddest of sad laugh. As an entertainer, as a performer, and as an artist, Corey is renowned. His art fun shops are the rave of the town. But the thing that I especially proud of is his wheelchair square dancing in retirement homes, where some may go for days, weeks, or months without even a glimmer of hope. It brings chills running up and down my spine to see the residents having so much fun in realizing that Corey is leaving a smile in their heart that will last a long, long time. Before closing, may I say to you parents that are here tonight that coaching and the rules governing the safety of football players have come an awful long way. In my era, before they knew what they knew now about concussions, we were first taught to butt your heads in blocking and to put your nose in the face of the oncoming ball carriers. The movie Concussion presents a pretty good idea as to what football players back then were faced with. In the book League of Denial, pretty much sums up head trauma, how head trauma through football have been dealt with over the years. With that said, I do believe things have changed for the better of our current and future football players, that I would suggest to you parents that junior high and high school football are a good thing. So if I may, please allow me to leave you with this thought. Football is a great sport for both team and individual alike. Football can be played safely, aggressively, and competitively if, and I emphasize the word if, it is coached, parented, and taught with the true well-being of the players at heart. Parents and coaches, please don't make light of this. In closing, I'd like to thank you, Blair County Sports Hall of Fame, for making this such a memorable experience. I am most grateful for, well, everything. Please know that I truly appreciate this recognition and all of you for making it happen. I will treasure this opportunity this has allowed my family, friends, and I to share in the memories of yesteryear for the rest of my life. God bless all of you here tonight, and thank you.
Here's your plate.
Beautifully spoken, Tom. And because you did so well, there'll be no charge for the Apex commercial. We'll let you go on that. I'm heading down there tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact. As you can see, I would be a good candidate for that, wouldn't I? Most of the honorees in the past have been participants in team sports. But what about individual sports? You know, you go out to practice, you know, you're either celebrating or commiserating with your teammates. No one loves practice, or not many do. But when we're talking about an individual sport, it's just you against yourself. Erica knows that as a high jumper. She's part of a track team, but it's an individual event. And the motivation has to come from within. You look around, and it's you. It's hard work. It's lonely. Our next presenter knows what I'm talking about. He was in the top 5 nationally as a member of the U.S. Summer Biathlon teams and the United States World Championship biathlon teams from 1995 through 2005. He has the best finish ever for a U.S. biathlete in World Championship competition. That was in the year 2002. Here to present inductee Doug Hoover, his great friend and mentor, Mark Shepard.
Hi, my name is Mark Shepard. It gives me great pleasure, and I'm extremely honored to introduce your next Blair County Hall of Fame inductee, Douglas Hoover. I first met Doug over 20 years ago as a young and talented runner just entering into the sport of summer biathlon. Doug immediately impressed everyone with his extreme devotion to excelling at his new sport. What also became apparent very soon was that Doug was one of those rare elite athletes that was also equally committed to the development of his sport. I've raced against Doug, organized events with him, traveled multiple times to international competition with him on the World Championships team. I've personally succumbed to his athletic prowess and also witnessed his own grace in his own defeats. He's one of those rare athletes that can have it both ways. He's a great competitor, but willing to concede when others are better than him on a certain day. Through his development of events in Pennsylvania, supporting summer biathlon throughout the country, and mentoring young athletes, Doug has become one of the most influential people in the sport in the last 2 decades. I've always been impressed with his continued humility, even after multiple national championship wins and multiple nominations to the World Championships team. Doug is a true champion, and the Blair County Hall of Fame should be honored to induct him.
Wow. Thank you to the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame Committee, not only for your recognition of what I did in this sport, but for your recognition of the sport itself. I probably have the unique distinction in the Hall of Fame of being the only inductee who has to explain exactly what it is I do. So I thank you for your acknowledgement of the shooting sports and this sport that I love. Congratulations to each of the other inductees tonight. It is truly humbling to be a part of such a distinguished group. I'm blessed to have been a part of two Blair County communities, first during my formative years in Tyrone, and it was there that my passion for the sport of running was fostered. I had some great teachers and some great coaches in the Tyrone School District to whom I am forever grateful. And to make myself feel a little younger, Erica, one of those coaches is still coaching you today, Steve Everhart, who could not be here tonight, but I am forever grateful to the Tyrone School District. Second, during my most competitive years of biathlon, I was blessed to be a part of the Williamsburg community for a decade, and I'm honored to join the hall tonight with two teams from this town. The list of people who've helped me through this journey is far too long to adequately thank everyone tonight. So with my apologies to anyone I miss, first I'd like to thank Eric Brown for your support over the last decade. Two of my college friends have joined us tonight, George Motley and Dave Boger. Dave was my training partner through college, and both were there 23 years ago when I competed in my first national championship, finishing 23rd. And I don't think any of us imagined then that we would be here tonight. I'm honored to have a few biathlon friends with me here tonight, John and Peg Sims, Frank and Barb Gavel, the founder of the Pennsylvania Biathlon Club, and I thank you for your support. Craig Seckler of Dreher Physical Therapy is here tonight. And over the course of a 2-decade biathlon career, Craig single-handedly held me together. I first met him when I was 24 and seemingly indestructible. And over the next 16 years, as I got older, I kept Craig a little bit busier as age came about. Rod and Trudy Heinisch are with us tonight. During the 10 years that I lived and trained in Williamsburg, most of my shooting workouts were completed on their farm. And I'm grateful to them not only for their hospitality, but for their friendship and support over the years. My pastor and his wife, Barry and Linda Vance, are with us tonight. Their guidance and support throughout my life has meant more than they know. And I had some great training partners over the years, each of whom was far more talented than I. And their friendship meant far more than the training. Sanja Heinisch is with us tonight. She was also a biathlon competitor, competed in 2002 at the Junior World Championships, along with Mark. Todd DeShong is an ultramarathoner, couldn't be with us tonight. And Steph Blackstone, now Steph Stripmatter, won 2 national titles and made 2 world championship teams. And I'm grateful to all of them for their help over the years. I'm also grateful to St. Francis University and my friends there. My years as a coach in Loretto have bookended my most competitive biathlon years. And it's no coincidence that after working with the student athletes there in 2002, it was followed by my own running really taking off. And I was blessed to return to St. Francis at the conclusion of my biathlon career. And of course, I'm grateful to my family for their support, encouragement, and love. My mom's parents could not be with us tonight, though they saw me compete many times. And I do think my pap still thinks this sport is a little weird, but but I do appreciate them. My dad's parents never got to see me compete in biathlon, though I would like to think that my aptitude for this sport came largely from them. My Uncle John and my Aunt Diane are with us tonight, and they have the distinction of being the best shooters in our family. In a shooting contest involving just our family, I probably don't even make the podium, thanks to them and my cousins. I'm grateful to my sister Billy Jo, my brother-in-law Ian, and my niece Abby for being with us tonight. And finally, of course, I'm grateful to my parents, Bill and Deb, without whose unwavering love and support, I would not be here today. My mom was always my biggest fan, and though my faith faltered through this journey, hers never did. She kept me grounded and, no pun intended, pointed in the right direction. My dad joined me for much of this biathlon journey, serving as my coach at numerous competitions across the country and around the world, and so we got to share experiences that most fathers and sons don't have an opportunity to share, and I am grateful for that. Undeniably, the greatest honor and responsibility of my life has been the opportunity to wear a uniform with the letters USA on the front of it. Nothing can beat that to represent this country. But I have to say that tonight's induction is a close second, and for that I thank you all.
And I think I speak for everyone that we're proud to have had you worn the uniform of our country. Now, one thing I have learned doing this for nearly 30 years, never make jokes about an inductee who was a boxer or knows how to use a weapon. No, thank you very much, Doug. For those of you who have a short attention span, now it's time for the cartoons. We'll take a little break here. You know the old line about there's no I in team, but we do celebrate the individual here by inducting great representatives of Blair County. But a few years back, the committee did something I think that serves everyone well and makes everyone proud. We began to honor teams. It's a great joy to achieve individually, but it's not as great, it's not as much fun, it's not as fulfilling as when we do it with teammates. We share that. We've all experienced that. And being a part of something special makes us special. And that's what's so great about being a member of a team. Tonight we honor the Williamsburg High School championship basketball teams from both championship seasons of 1958 and 1966 in this video tribute, which was written and edited by Kelly Goodman Schaefer and Tricia Gates. Well, we've talked about coaches a lot here tonight, and this gentleman created a dynasty well before there was a TV show of the same name. You know him very well. He's one of your own. Art Tannehill won more than 400 basketball games. He went to the Western Finals 12 times. He went to Hershey for the state championships 7 times, and he won 4 Quad A titles with the Altoona Lady Lions. Hardly seems as though 14 years have gone by since I introduced him and presented him for induction into the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame in 2002. Here to present Jennifer Shingler Hansberry, Art Tannehill.
I was very fortunate because I had basketball camps, and so a lot of those kids came up through my basketball camp. And I could tell right away when she was in the junior high that she had that desire and mentality to really work and to become a really good ball player. In 80-81, we lost in the state championship game, and then it took us 5 years to get back there. Well, Jennifer was part of that young group that was in the junior high, and they had been through the run, 34-0 before we lost, and had all gone down to the state championship game. So they had that little taste of it, you know, and I think at that point they just wanted to experience it again. And so they, you know, made whatever effort they had to put themselves in that kind of a situation. She led by example. You know, she was in the gym when she had to be, worked hard. In the off season, she was on the playgrounds, you know, at 9 o'clock in the morning, out there shooting her 300 shots, you know, 3 times a week. I think one night, this probably, we were playing, and she played really sick. You know, it was right before we were to go into the inter-district playoffs, and she played really, really sick. And after the game, her father had stopped me on the way out and said, you know, I don't think Jennifer will be able to make the trip. She is really, really sick. And I said to Roger, I said, you go out and tell your daughter that she's going to be too sick to make the trip to Erie for our first playoff game when we're undefeated and going into inter-district play. And he looked at me and he said, I don't think I'll say that to her. And she did. She played sick that particular game, and of course she played sick when we went into the first round of the playoffs, but that was the type of athlete that she was. She's one of these players that even today, she's involved with young people. You know, she's a lawyer. She works in the service section over there with people, but she's helped Scott Colombo with some of his camps and some of his individual training that he's done. And so she's given back to the game what the game has provided for her. And that's a sign of a very, very good person and a dedicated athlete. In reflection of everything that's taken place, it is without a doubt a great privilege on my part to be able to tonight present Jennifer Shingler Hansberry for induction into the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame. Well deserved.
Thank you to the Blair County Selection Committee for this tremendous honor. And while you honor me with this induction and this wonderful weekend of events, you've also given me an incredible gift. And that gift is the opportunity to say thank you to the many people who have impacted my life through the game of basketball. I played basketball for 12 years, and during that time I had 4 head coaches. All 4 of those head coaches are here tonight, along with my friends and family, and I am truly grateful. I met my first coach, Jim Sweeney, when I was 10 years old. Jim was the coach at Curtin Elementary, and he introduced me to the game. Jim drove the entire team to games. He would circle the neighborhood and pick everybody up, and we would head to 6th Ward to play. He would blast Earth, Wind & Fire on his radio, and I can still hear Jim Sweeney singing along. I never understood the game during my first year, but Jim was patient, and I was hooked. I got my first ball for Christmas that year and wore it out by the summer. Thank you, Coach Sweeney, for introducing the game to me and making it fun. Congratulations on your outstanding high school coaching career with over 400 wins. And I wonder if the Bellwood Annis girls have ever heard you sing. Thank you to my junior high school coach, Gary Smithmeyer. I loved playing for Coach Smithmeyer. He made the Keith Roosevelt rivalry seem like the NCAA championship. I made Roosevelt's 8th and 9th grade team as a 7th grader. 3 7th graders made the team that year, but only one of us was given the coveted shoe voucher. A player who possessed the shoe voucher could go to Schulman's and ask Jaime for the team shoes. You were on the list. Okay. Well, I didn't get the shoe voucher. It went to a better player, more deserving than me. I can remember every detail of the ride home that day. Steam was coming out of my ears, tears from my eyes, because I wasn't good enough to get the shoes. I ended up in a cast 3 months later due to tendonitis of the elbow. That's how much time I spent dribbling because I was determined to get those shoes as an 8th grader. Thank you, Coach Smithmeyer, for not giving me those shoes in 7th grade. That event lit some kind of fire in me. I learned a lot from you, and I was well prepared for basketball at the high school level. So if you played basketball in this area in the 1980s, and you were a girl from a public school, and you had a pulse, you dreamed of playing for Coach Tannehill and the Lady Lions. Coach had tremendous influence over his players, and that may be the understatement of the evening. It was his way or the highway. I remember a game at Indiana my junior year, and I was stinking up the gym, and we were losing. At halftime, after listening to Coach's critique of my play, he turned to me before leaving the locker room and said, I'm going to do my best for this imitation. Shingler, take off those knee pads. They are cutting off the circulation to your brain. But here's my point. I believed him. Off came the knee pads, and Rita, you know this, I love those knee pads. And guess what? My play improved, the team play improved, and we won the game. I never wore knee pads again. I believed what Coach said. That's the impact he had on us. When Coach said that we would win a state championship, I believed him. My senior year was a dream for any athlete. I was blessed with amazing teammates who bought into a work ethic that involved sacrifice and commitment. And with the support of our families in this awesome town, our dream of a state championship came true. Coach Tannehill, I want to thank you for your tremendous commitment to Altoona Lady Lion basketball. You created the bar for girls basketball in Central Pennsylvania. You taught your Lady Lions to strive to be role models on the court, in the classroom, and to represent ourselves, our school, our families, and our town. Thanks to your phenomenal dedication and perseverance, you put me and several of my teammates in positions to attract attention from college coaches and realize our dreams of playing college basketball. Thanks, Coach. I am thrilled to have my college coach, Kirk Bruce, here tonight. Thank you, Coach Bruce, for helping me realize my dream. You gave me the opportunity to excel at Pitt and captain your teams, an honor that I hold very, very dear because it came from you. What I've never told you is that you are an incredible role model for me and everyone on the team. You were the John Wooden of the Big East. All of the other teams admired you. We learned many life lessons from you. As young people, we watched you balance your job and your very young family, and we were paying attention. Whether it was a big win at Penn State or a close loss against Connecticut, we were always mindful that we were representing Pitt and following your lead. Except, of course, for that double overtime win at Penn State, I remember that we were celebrating perhaps a little too hard in the locker room, and you were quick to remind us, me, that although we would definitely celebrate the win, we had another game in a couple of days and needed to focus on that upon our return to Pittsburgh. Your patience, kindness, tenacity, competitiveness, and composure are all traits that I have tried to emulate as an adult, a parent, and as a coach. To all 4 of my coaches and the many assistant coaches that I had, I share this award with you. And I want you to know that I have tried to pay it forward out of respect for what you gave to me. I coached both girls and boys of all ages over a 20-year period, and it was my goal to pass along many of the great attributes that I learned from you. Also assisting me with paying it forward was fellow Altoona and Pitt friend, Scott Colombo. I had an opportunity to work at Scott's Players Edge camp, where Scott taught me how to teach the game to young people. Thank you, Scott. And by the way, Scott, what a thrill to watch you beat All-American Charles Smith in sprints during your time at Pitt. I was so proud. To my mom and dad, thank you for your amazing support. I now understand what it's like to plan your life around your child's sports schedule. Dad, you paved over half our yard so that we could have a basketball hoop. You stayed home with me when I refused to go on vacation during my high school years, so afraid that time off meant that someone at Bishop Guilfoyle might be working harder than me, like Lisa Leitner, Georgiana. Dad, you were my best friend during my basketball years. And Mom, thank you for not taking my basketball years too seriously. That balance for me was so necessary. Your smile in the stands, even when I was playing my worst, was precious to me. I have followed your example of giving to others through my work with children. You are truly inspiring. To my siblings, Chris, Scott, and Deb, thanks for the many years of backyard basketball. Those games fueled my killer instinct. What girl doesn't want to beat a guy, especially a brother? And Deb, thanks for having my back on our high school team. To my extended family, Aunt Regina, Uncle Tom, Grandma Frances Adams, Aunt Donna, Aunt Natalie, Uncle Fran, and my late Uncle Bill, Grandma Shingler, and Pap Adams. Thanks for being my fan club. I was so fortunate to have a posse before it even became cool. And to my children, Julia, Jack, and Catherine, I love you, and I'm so proud of the young adults you've become. And I'm thrilled that you get to experience this weekend with me and can see firsthand the love and support that the people in Blair County give to their own. If you take anything away from my words tonight, remember to say thank you to the people who positively impact your life and pay it forward when you get the opportunity. To John, my husband, sitting right over here, you are the MVP of my all-time favorite team, and thank you for letting me be the captain. You have had perhaps, you had no choice on that one. You have had perhaps the greatest impact on me of anyone in the room. My life changed when I met you, my eyes opened, and together we have realized our dream of raising a family. You put up with my Irish fire, and I love you dearly. To my teammates from Altoona High, Rita Anderson, Tracy Slogic, all of my teammates on the 1986 state championship team, as well as former Altoona players who blazed the trail for our eventual success. Judy McNeilis, Lisa Fubio, Lori Young, Linda Schimminger, and a special shout out to Rita Anderson Lanza. We played on the same teams and we share the same 4 coaches that are here tonight. And my Pitt teammates, Rita Anderson, Lori Johnson, Sue Falvey, Sally Shearer, and Amy Holman. Thank you. We shared a common goal, to work hard and win. I was privileged to share the court with you, and I share this award with all of my former teammates. To the Altoona and Blair County community, thank you for your unbelievable support. To grow up in this area and play in front of packed gyms with people lining up hours in advance for tickets was the biggest motivator a young athlete could have. I have always been very proud to tell people that I'm from Altoona, and to have the love and support of people in your hometown is truly a blessing. Thank you to Rich DeLeo, Cal Bergonia, and the late Charlie Weston for bringing our games to anyone that couldn't be there. It was very special to have our radio personalities support our teams. And finally, there are several people in the room that I would like to acknowledge because they took care of us 30 years ago, and they are still doing it today. And I'm sorry that I can't mention everyone that I would like to. Mr. Lee Height, Mr. Steve Sheets, Mr. Dave Andrews, Mr. Jim Lane, Mr. Jim Gregory, Mr. Neil Riedel, Mrs. Kathy Millward. You have gone above and beyond for athletes in this area. I can speak for all Blair County athletes when I say, thank you for your generosity and dedication. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
I don't think we've ever heard a better acceptance speech. Do you? I know this much. The next Pirates or Penguins pregame show that I do, I'm ripping those knee pads right off now. I've been doing this a long time. I never knew. Who knew? As someone once said. Our next presenter is a giant in the Pennsylvania political world and political history. He is the longest tenured member of the Pennsylvania legislature, 31 years. He has served as President Pro Temp and Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But even with the primary coming up Tuesday, we're going to put politics aside for just a moment because Bob Jubileer, his function here tonight and in past years was in being instrumental in bringing, if you will, the pun, a jubileer of baseball to Blair County, the Altoona Curve. He brought a great deal in development to the area, which enabled the Curve to thrive, but he was very instrumental in bringing the AA team to Blair County. It's baseball's national pastime to one of America's greatest cities. Here to present the founders and co-owners of the Curve, Joan and Bob Lozinak, Bob Jubileer.
My former high school classmate, Bob Lozinak, had always been interested in bringing minor league baseball to Altoona. He had owned the Albuquerque, I think the Albuquerque Dukes they were called, a Los Angeles Dodger AAA franchise, but Altoona was in his heart. And I called Bob, and he was very interested. So that was the genesis of bringing minor league baseball to Altoona. They had identified the current site as a possible place for a stadium. It was a big deal, and frankly, it was a long shot that we ever got here. But Bob was clearly vital to having minor league baseball in Altoona and the Eastern Lake. It's his interest in baseball, his love of baseball, and that he played baseball in Anchorage, Alaska, 2 straight summers. It was in his heart. It was his passion, his love. Baseball was always with Bob Lozinak. And if Joan wasn't supportive of what he was doing, I don't think this ever happens. But she was his rock. He counted on her. She was his #1 fan, but he was her #1 fan as well. They were the perfect couple. They were a team, and Bob always worked as a team with Joan. And having gotten to know Joan better as this project went through, I realized how savvy she was and how important she was going to be to this project. Fortunately, I made that call. That's all I know, is if I couldn't have found a Bob Lozinak, I don't know that we would be having this conversation today. But I think the expectations in talking to him, this was his dream and Joan's dream because they were partners in everything. This was their dream come true, and it was pretty darn special. We are a very special place because of the local ownership, because of a family that cared so much about their home community. It made a big difference. So this is exactly what I expected out of them. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Bob and Joan Lozinak for induction into the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame.
I get to do the talking. Can you imagine a woman that doesn't want to talk? But anyhow, Joan has been very, very strong in my support throughout all the years in baseball, and I'm very, very thankful for her support. Whenever I got a call about, do I want to be a part of the Altoona team possibility? And I said, I don't know, let me see. Let me ask Joan. And I said, Joan, we'd like to be a part of the new ball club in Altoona, Pennsylvania? I thought she turned into a 6-year-old. I didn't know what I said, I guess we're very, very happy to do so. So that was one of the beginning points of it. But, you know, sometimes things trickle down and you're at the bottom of it and there's the gold in your hand. And that's happened to me a couple times in my life. We got into McDonald's by saying, my brother and I, Walter, what could be so hard about selling a 15-cent hamburger? If it's no good, give the guy another one. Okay. Met the right guy, got in at the right time at McDonald's, did very, very well, and loved baseball. Got into baseball with the Albuquerque Dukes. In 1980 was our first year. We were there for 21 years. Won championship in 1980, 81, 82, 87, 90, and 94. And managers such as Terry Collins, Del Crandall for 3 years, Kevin Kennedy, Billy Russell, so forth and so on. And it was really, really a nice thing. But, you know, it was tough to learn in Albuquerque because they were accustomed to having a GM that reported to the Dodgers. And he would call on Friday afternoon and say, we need $10,000 to make payroll. And the Dodgers would send him the $10,000. So when we got the ball club, that wasn't coming to us, I can tell you that. Because when we had the franchise, it was up to us to make it run right. And we were fighting things like this, and I want to be a little brief on this. In Albuquerque at the time, they would sell every Friday night out to a liquor store and beer store, 10,000 seats for $1,000. So the tickets were 10 cents each. And to top it off, there were 10,000 people at the ballpark. They had 25-cent beer night. By the 8th inning, they had all kind of fights there. It was terrible. The guys were soused to the top, it's like old Tommy would say. And it was really, really a bad situation. So we get there in 1980. Where are the free tickets? Where is the 25-cent beer? I said, we're going to turn this into a family operation. There's no more freebies. So that's one of the things I had in my mind when we came to Altoona, that we would have a situation where we want the fans to be here. We want young children growing up to become Curve fans, and ultimately then Pirate fans. So, but before I go much further, I want to thank Bob Blair for his kind words. We thought of a baseball team in the early 80s. We'd go to our reunions, and I said, we'd talk, and we'd always say, well, Bob would say to me, we're going to have a baseball team in Altoona someday. I said, okay, Bob, let me know when. And it went on and on and on in years and years, and nothing accomplished. And then finally I did get the call. And also I'd like to acknowledge the work that Bud Schuster did for us too, with the garage, with the federal money that tied up with the money from the state to build the stadium and the garage for parking. Had that not been possible, we wouldn't be here tonight, or at least I wouldn't be here tonight. And when it came to get the award for the ball club, I had to go to Vegas. And we were competing with Springfield, Massachusetts. I went out with a plan of the stadium. Told them we had the funding, we were ready to go, and Springfield was there with a dream to have a team and had nothing in line or anything. So the committee of 28 people said, well, really, why do you want to put a team in Altoona, Pennsylvania? I said, that's my hometown. Why wouldn't I want to put a team in Altoona, Pennsylvania? And he said, well, pretty small, isn't it? I said, yeah. I said, size of the gold mine doesn't mean anything. It's how much gold's in the gold mine. So I said, and my good friend Sal Baglieri said, that sneaky little town. I said, what do you mean? He said, there's a lot of money in that town. He said, but I said, well, we're going to bring this to a situation where people want to come to the ballpark. So the fans, as I mentioned, I wanted to have a fan club for the little kids, because if we get them when they're small, like Ray Kroc taught us in McDonald's, the fans will come, because because those little kids can't come to the ballpark by themselves. And as Joan would say, it's the safest ballpark in America, because there's guards all over it. The kids can go anywhere in that ballpark, but they'll never get out of there because there's a guard there. And furthermore, I said to him, well, we have a great newspaper in Altoona. We have great, great, great coverage of every one of our games. You will not find that anywhere. I had a team in Jackson, Tennessee for a couple of years. You were lucky to have the score in it. They wouldn't send a reporter to the ballpark. Yeah, they just didn't like it. Bigger town, 70,000 something people there. But with Jim Lane, Corey Geiger, and Neil, never once have we had a bad negative article that was going to hurt the ball club. And furthermore, the relationship I had with the Dodgers for the many, many years was a great one. The O'Malleys are just wonderful people, just great people. But it was not as close as the relationship which we have with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I love this Frank Coonley, because first time I met him, we were at dinner one night and we started talking, and he said, well, when we first got married, we had to rip all this wallpaper off of every room in the house, and it took them forever. And I said, you're my man. I did that a lot of times in my life too. And just to show you how strong we are with the Pirates, in 2013, when we were waiting for that All-Star game, I had said to him, Frank, the Pirates really want to come to Altoona in March 30th. I said, really? Did you really tell me? He said, Bob, they cannot wait to come back to Altoona. So we treat them well. They know that, and the fans know that, and we have fans that are dedicated for life. I used to go, when I was rather young, go to 5:30 Mass Cathedral, 6:05 train to Pittsburgh, arrived at 8:15, walked to Forbes Field, waited an hour till the iron gates opened, 2 hours of batting practice, doubleheader with the Pennsylvania Blue Law, had us end by 7, finally broke down and took a trolley back into the railroad station for the 11 o'clock train, got home at 1:15. My cousin was with me. He lived closer to the railroad station than I did, and I left him and went the last 5 blocks by myself. I was 12, and my cousin was 10. It was great times. And I always wanted to put as I said, I wanted to make Altoona a town that people knew of. You know, I left Altoona at a young age, wound up in Anchorage, Alaska for 3 years, wound up in the service, and had a long period where I didn't come back here, only for funerals and stuff like that. And it wound up that I was sort of disconnected for a long time. But Joan and I would ride by, and I'd say, boy, this was in the 60s. I'd say, if they ever build a ballpark in Altoona, right there's where it should be. Lakemont Park, right where it is. Back in the 60s, I said that to her. So we also had to have good leadership in the front office. The first GM is here tonight, Sal Baglieri, and my son Steve was his assistant GM. And those were pretty decent days, very, very strong support, still strong support today. Jeff Parker was our second GM, and Rob Egan is here tonight, and he's our current GM, and hopefully for a long, long time. And David Lozinak, second son, is our COO. He is in charge of everything from plug toilets to rain spouts that are falling down, hot water heaters that don't work. So it's just a family operation, and my oldest son, Mike, is also involved. You know, as time goes by, and this is our 18th season with the ball club here, you know, there's repairs that need to be done in the stadium and things that you don't even think of. You know, you're at your home, you have a air conditioner goes out, and you get down and get one, it may cost you $4,000. We have to put a multiplier of 30 on that. So we're at 120 grand before we even start doing anything. And things are expensive, but we want to keep the stadium in an A1 condition. We have to reinvent the wheel to make it nice for people to come. And if you don't do that, you know, it starts waning. People start seeing things. We start seeing things long before you and know about it. And the money is tight, but we think we're going to be taken care of in the very near future. I started by thanking everybody, and I think I can't end this unless I thank God for this, because it was He who started it in the beginning. Go Curve, and thank you very much.
Joan, you can hold a private audience later if you'd like. Get a word in edgewise there. We've talked about a lot of sports here tonight, but we always seem to get back to basketball, which we'll do now, and of course, with our guest speaker also. Our next presenter is Dave McGarity. If you follow Hoop at all, you know Dave. He really got his start in Loretto with St. Francis. Then he coached at Marist for 18 years. He's been the head coach of the Army women's team for the last 11 years. This year, they won the Patriot League Championship and got a berth in the NCAA tournament. And if you think about Army basketball, you think about Bob Knight and Mike Krzyzewski, among others, Tate's Lock, and some other terrific coaches. Dave won his 500th game this season and became just the second coach in NCAA history to get an NCAA berth for both men's and women's basketball. Here to present Jeff Bauer, Dave McGarity.
Good evening. In the spring of 1979, after my first season as head coach at St. Francis, Jim Finksler, the head boys basketball coach at Hollidaysburg High School, invited me to speak at the school sports banquet. Afterwards, Jim introduced me to one of his senior players and told me the young man was attending St. Francis in the fall and wanted to help out and eventually get into coaching. I invited Jeff Bauer to stop by my office, and I would put him to work, believing he would last 1 or 2 days like all the ones before over the years. But this kid came back day after day, week after week, taking on any menial task we gave him, from stuffing envelopes to inflating balls. By mid-year, he was assisting with drills and practice, and by his senior year, as my student assistant, he was an invaluable member of my coaching staff, involved with every aspect of our program. When I moved on to Iona College in 1983, I asked old friend and newly named Penn State head coach Bruce Parkhill if he would interview a great young candidate for a position on his staff. 3 years later, I hired Jeff as my top assistant at Marist College, and over the next 10 years, we won 2 league championships and participated in NIT and an NCAA tournament. When an offer arose to join the Charlotte Hornets as an advanced scout, he jumped at the opportunity, and his NBA career was on its way. He moved steadily up in the organization to position of general manager, where he drafted 4 future All-Stars and was a finalist for the NBA Executive of the Year in 2008. He also served as an assistant coach and as a head coach during his tenure. As the current general manager for the Detroit Pistons, he once again has another NBA club on the rise. At this time, it is my distinct honor and privilege to present my good friend Jeff Bauer for induction into the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame.
like to thank everyone associated with this evening. I'm indeed humbled and honored with this honor and introduction into the Blair County Hall of Fame. I received the honor and recognition really not because what I have done, but rather what others have done for me that are in this room. You know, this is really great. I'm not here to deliver a message or to give a speech tonight or to be entertaining. We can leave that to Jay. Coming right up. I'll have you know, late breaking news, I have made a trade tonight, and I gave away half of my minutes and tacked them on to Jay. So, that's a good thing, as you all know. I also want to check into the very talented artist that has done all of these caricatures, because it just jumps out at you as soon as we walked into the building for the very first time. Another thing that jumped out at me, I looked up, and this has really troubled me all night. Because I have two things in my mind when I look up at that. One is how valuable that can be tomorrow afternoon during Game 4 when LeBron is at the foul line. I can't think of anything that's more distracting than that. But my first thought when I saw it was, wow, these are all the past inductees. Where am I? I see Uncle Fester. Yeah, Neil's cutting back on the budget. And that's a beautiful place to start. You can take it with you. Oh, really? Very good. But I really would like to thank so many people that are in this room that have been a part of allowing this to happen. You know, both Dave McGarity, Jim Finksler, who you talk about at the beginning of the introduction, are back here at another banquet together. Who knows what's next? But it was an incredible opportunity that was created, an incredible opportunity that Dave allowed me to enjoy the benefits of and to move on, and really, you know, who's going to give somebody a chance like that? And it's something that has been a part of my life and our family's life forever, and we're indebted forever. So thank you. Friends and family that are here, friends from the community that are here, friends that aren't here. We're grateful for the impact, for the feelings and the thoughts that we have of this community, the feelings and the thoughts of what we all grew up with, what we all hope to achieve someday, and what we all are able to celebrate together every time we are together. The most important thing I would like to do tonight along those lines is to thank my family. My daughter Lindsay, 13 years old, has the whole world in front of her. Volleyball, basketball, soccer, track and field, ice hockey. Those are just the things that she's involved with during the day. Terrific student, bright future. And there's not a day goes by that when I think of what she has ahead, that I don't think back to my days here. The advantage that I had over so many other people. I work in a world where guys come from tough lives. They've had to overcome a lot. They've been guys that had to excel in spite of so many things. I never had that. I had it all. I had a great family. I had a great community. I had a great school. I had a great support system. I had people that cared. I had people that knew how to make a difference in the lives of young people. I had people that were impactors, and that's why I've been able to remember those days, and why I just hope and pray every day that my daughter has that same advantage. My wife, Lisa, has been with us through every step of the way, from moves from Poughkeepsie to Hopewell Junction to Charlotte, North Carolina, to Fort Mill, South Carolina, to, let's see, New Orleans on Turnberry Avenue, New Orleans, 2 blocks over, Oklahoma City, back to New Orleans, let's see, back to Poughkeepsie, and now Oakland, Michigan, for an exciting adventure. A lot of stress and strain, a lot of days that you have to keep it all together. And she has been the one that has kept us all together. 1 year ago this week, if this banquet was last year at this time, we wouldn't have been able to be here. Because last year at this time, she was battling lung cancer. This year at this time, she's beat it, she's cancer-free, and she's strong and moving on. So to borrow a Lou Holtz line, I no longer pray for her. I pray to her, because she is indeed a saint. We weren't able to be here last night at the reception because I had to work. But I would like to offer my congratulations to all the members of the Williamsburg teams and what you were able to accomplish. And the theme music and the Hoosiers is just so real, because Hoosiers lives in the Williamsburgs of the world, and there's a lot of communities like that. But when you feel it and you see it, it makes you really appreciate what it's all about when people sacrifice and come together. Because 30 years from now is when the value gets increased, and it just rises and rises in the minds and the imaginations of everybody that was a part of it. So I salute you, Donnie Appleman, Jeff Appleman. You know, we all worked at the camps. Coach McGarity up in Loretto, you know, where there was a lot of great things happening and a lot of great days and a lot of better nights. And we all remember them today. My job over the last 30 years or so has been to help build teams that can overcome obstacles and difficulties. And as you get older and you find the birthday candles on the cake end up costing more than the cake, you start to realize a lot of things. And I've looked at it and said that I've really followed the same blueprint for just about every team I've coached or been a part of trying to build. And we've always believed that talent is never enough. Character will get you through the dark days. Working together, trusting, believing in the good of people, that'll pave the way to success. These are values that survive all the latest trends or the latest demographic surveys. Character counts. How you treat people counts. How willing are you to sacrifice for your team? That counts. These are all at the top of the list as we've attempted to start teams and build teams and grow teams and individuals. Now, where did all that come from? It came from right here in the lessons that you taught me growing up in Blair County. It came from winning and losing, good days and bad days, good nights and bad nights. But the values never change. They've gotten us through the rebuilding seasons, and they've gotten us through franchise best seasons. These values, these Blair County values, have been a compass and provided direction when it would have been really easy to get lost. These Blair County values have helped guide us through deaths, births, the BP oil spill, Hurricane Katrina. I mean, these are some of the biggest disasters in American history. And somehow, we've all been in the middle of them. It's something that is unique, that changes you forever. The people that were in New Orleans during Katrina have a pride and a sense of belonging to a community that is unmatched and unknown, that feeling. The closest thing to it, the closest thing to that sense of we're going to build, we're going to make it because we have to, is when you are able to look around a room like this and see the pride and accomplishment of all of these people, the pride and accomplishment of the work that went into building this night. That's one of the closest things that I can compare to that feeling of we're going to rebuild and we're going to come back strong because we can and because we have to. Now, we all know at the start of every season and at the start of every endeavor, there's going to be problems. There might be a lot of problems. But you can't whine about them. You can't complain about them. 90% of the people don't care about them. The other 10% are glad you have them. But I'm just so grateful that when the problems do show up, and when LeBron comes back on the floor tomorrow in Game 4, I can count on my Blair County values to help get us through. And so I'm going to end and say those two words that everybody is so happy to hear every time I talk, anywhere. In conclusion. So in conclusion, on behalf of my family, on behalf of my friends, and on behalf of my mother and father, who would have been so proud to have been here tonight with us all, I thank you for what you have done. I thank you for creating this Blair County Hall of Fame. And I thank you for including my family and my friends in such a special, special evening. Thank you.
I know, Jeff, when I first looked at that character, I thought you had hair. We'd never met before. At least congratulations on fighting the great fight. God bless you. And one more thing. I know you're down 3-0, but you are building something tremendous with that club. Really. Yeah, you are getting there. You're getting there. You're getting there. Whenever people in Pittsburgh say, "What, are you in that banquet?" and I say, "Yeah, every other year," and I do it, and they ask, "Well, what is it?" And rather than explain to them what you already know and what you've witnessed here tonight, here's what I generally tell them. These are some of the guest speakers that we've had in the 17 banquets. We've had national championship coaches, Bobby Bowden, Jim Boeheim, Bob Knight, and a guy who meant so much to me personally and to you as well, Joe Paterno. We've had Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, Joe Theismann, Terry Bradshaw, Big Ben. We've had an Olympic hero, not just a gold medalist, but a hero in Mary Lou Retton as our guest speaker. We've had one of the greatest Steelers of all time, Hines Ward. We've had media giants like Greg Gumbel and Chris Fowler and Dick Vitale. That's a pretty good lineup. And when I tell them that, they say, oh, okay. Well, those people all did a tremendous job in their speeches, and I speak from the heart. I have never looked forward to hearing a presentation as much as I'm looking forward to hearing from Jay Bilas tonight, because he brings us and sports to a higher dimension. When I'm watching a game, I don't care what sport it is, I want to learn something from the color analyst. I want him to teach me something I didn't know about the game or didn't think about. And Jay brings that, but he also brings what's wrong with the sport. Not the game, but the sport. And he's outspoken. As fans of the sport, as supporters of the sports, we need to know that. And we need to know how best to fix it, to make it better. We all need to be aware. We need to know. Jay hasn't made many mistakes in his career, except for maybe becoming a lawyer. And I can't think of a group that's more disliked than politicians, sorry to Bob Jubileer, media guys and lawyers. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf once said, Jay. But he brings the rare ability to inform and entertain all in the same. It is my distinct and great pleasure to bring to you our featured speaker here tonight at the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame, Jay Bilas.
Let me start by saying there are several secrets to giving a great introduction, and apparently there's still a secret to Stan Savran. I was really glad he went down the list of people who are far better than I am to be speaking this evening. Folks that the inductees would rather have their picture taken with and get to know. And I did, before I came here, I did look at the incredible list of speakers and was quite intimidated until I saw Dick Vitale and Chris Fowler and thought, how hard could it be? This has been a great day for me, but it did not start off very well. I bounded out of bed this morning in Charlotte, North Carolina to get on the flight up here to Pittsburgh and then drive to Altoona. And when I hopped out of bed, my wife said to me, what has gotten into you? And I said, well, today's the day. I mean, today's the day I get to go to Altoona and speak at the Blair County Hall of Fame inductions. And I said, did you ever in your wildest dreams think I would get to do this? And she said, Jay, you're not in my wildest dreams. So I get to Altoona and get to the lovely Courtyard by Marriott. Walked in, and a gentleman kind of looked at me. It happens from time to time when you're 6'8". You get a double take here and there. And the gentleman looks at me and says, anybody ever tell you you look like Jay Bilas? And I said, well, yes, sir, it happens to me all the time. And then he said, that must really piss you off. So I've got a lot to overcome. And then I've got a connection to this area. My wife grew up in Cumberland, Maryland, which is just 40 miles away. And according to her, you are very fortunate to be just 40 miles away from God's country, Cumberland, Maryland, future site of the Second Coming. But we do get up here from time to time to visit her family. It's a beautiful part of the country, and I'm very, very honored to be here right now. And some of you, before the ceremony tonight, I took a bunch of pictures with folks, and it was really, really kind of neat. This is the first time since my high school prom that I have worn a boutonniere. And I got to take a picture, actually, I don't know if is my prom date here? Jamie? Where's Jamie? Jamie. Well, Jamie and I, stand up for a second, Jamie. Jamie and I took a picture together, And we decided that we were going to make it a prom picture, so we did that side-by-side thing. And I promise you, when that hits social media, we are going to be quite the scandal. So stay tuned for that. I was really lucky, and whenever I hear people talk about success and all that stuff, I always hear luck is when preparation meets opportunity and all this stuff, and I've never really bought that. I have been one of those, and I think a lot of people here would count themselves among that group that has been really lucky. And I do not discount luck as a gigantic factor in success. I'm a big believer in hard work and preparation, but I'm also a big believer in luck. And I was incredibly lucky to grow up in the community I did just outside of Los Angeles. I was born in San Pedro, California, in a Yugoslav fishing community, and that's what my father did before I was born. And similar to what Jeff Bauer was saying, I grew up with all the advantages. I had a similar community to yours that was very supportive. I had great coaches that really cared. And when I was fortunate enough to go off to college, I got a chance to do something that some people in the audience have done here, and that's I got a chance to play for one of the true icons in college sports history. I played basketball for Mike Krzyzewski at Duke. And I'm going to tell you a couple things about that tonight, but I wanted first to mention something that Doug had mentioned before about the great honor of wearing USA across his chest. Because it reminded me that I, too, got to play for the United States. I played for the U.S. national team in 1985, and the head coach of the U.S. national team was Gene Cady of Purdue. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Gene Cady, but he is a rough customer. And the first meeting that we had in West Lafayette, Indiana, where Purdue is, we had a team meeting, and on the blackboard were all of our rooming assignments, practice times, and some team guidelines and things we needed to know. And then there was also up in the upper right-hand corner of the board were our team goals. And we had 2 of them, and Gene Cady had written these out himself. Number 1 was win the gold medal. Number 2 was fight communism. People laugh, but 5 years later, the Berlin Wall came down. You're welcome. But having the opportunity to play for Mike Krzyzewski was an incredible opportunity, and for me, it has been one of the transformative moments of my life. I played for him. I first met him in 1981. I started playing for him in 1982, and for the last 35 years or so, he's coached me. And it wasn't only the 4 years that I got to play there. And recently, I wrote a book a couple years ago called Toughness, which my teammates would find wildly ironic that I would write about a subject that I knew nothing about as a player. But recently, I had the opportunity to spend time with Shane Battier and Jay Williams, and we were conducting like a seminar on lessons from Coach K. And it was really an incredible exercise. I wrote down all these different things in preparation for it. And I had pages and pages of notes and knew that there was no way that all this stuff could be used in this seminar. But I boiled it down to about 5 things that I thought were the most important, and at least the most important to me. And I wanted to share those with you tonight because they were incredibly important and transformative for me. And the first is everything I do is important. And it came from when I was a freshman. And all of you that have played any sort of sport know that on every schedule, there is often a team that you know you will beat even if you don't play well. And we had one of those on our schedule, and we were preparing for that game, and Coach K came into the locker room for our scouting report and was as fired up as he'd ever been and said, "This is the most important game on our schedule." And when he said that, I kind of, hopefully I didn't show it outwardly, but I was thinking, what is he talking about? I mean, we play North Carolina pretty soon, and Maryland, and all these great teams, in Virginia with Ralph Sampson and Michael Jordan, all these players that played in the ACC at the time. And he's talking about this team we're playing that we're going to, even if they play poorly, we're going to hammer them. And he says it's the most important game on our schedule because we're playing it, and everything we do is important. And he said, all of you say that someday you want to play in championship games. And if you want to play in a championship game, you've got to prepare for every game like it's a championship game. Then when we get there, and we will get there, you will know how to behave because that's the way we do it. And that made a profound impact on me. in the way that I go about things, that everything I do is important. It's important because it's my game. And it actually really helped my broadcast career. My first game for ESPN was Charleston Southern versus UNC Greensboro. It was not a ratings grabber. And it was not a game, there's no way that, that as many people are in this room watched that game. But the people who did watch it, it was important to them. And it was going to be important to me. And I prepared for that game like it was the NCAA championship game. I have never, to this day, prepared any harder for a game. I hope I haven't prepared any less, but I haven't prepared any harder. And toward the end of the game came down to the final play. And the play-by-play guy, a guy named Drew Goodman, asked me before the final play what I expected to happen. And I'd watched all this film, I'd gone to practices, I'd attended everything, and I thought I knew what may happen and mentioned it. I thought it may go to a kid named Eric Burks or a kid named Brett Larrick for a set that Charleston Southern liked to run. And before the play started, I said, it's usually in a situation like this, not the first shot that beats you, it's the tip in, it's the offensive rebound. So a block out is going to be a huge play here. And the shot was missed, taken by one of the two guys I mentioned. It was missed, and it was tipped in. And my bosses thought I was Nostradamus. Because I prepared for it, I was really lucky. You have to be incredibly lucky for there to be a play like that in a game. But because I made it important, it wound up being important to me. And I got another game and another game after that, and it led to a career. The next dovetails with it, and that's preparation. That my preparation and Coach K's preparation, because of Coach K's preparation and his insistence on it, I have prepared really well, not only as a broadcaster, but in my time as a trial lawyer and everything else I've done. If I didn't play for him, there's no way I'd prepare the way I prepare. And what he taught me was that preparation allows you to be instinctive in the moment and to perform with feel. And he says all the time, Coach K says, I coach by feel. Well, that doesn't mean he coaches in an unprepared manner or he just goes and he's going to wing it. What it means is he is as prepared as he can possibly be. Then in the moment, he can perform. And he doesn't have to think about anything. He can perform. And that's the way I have found it for me, is I can be instinctive in the moment. I make these detailed scouting reports and charts for every game, but I never look at them when the game's going on. The preparation gets it into this tiny little brain of mine, and then I can just watch the game and react to what I see without thinking. And sometimes I speak without thinking. But it's an extraordinary lesson that I learned and that has carried me through to this day and hopefully further. The next is something that Coach K refers to as next play. Something I say, he said all the time when I was playing. It's something I say all the time now. I say it double-digit times every day. Whenever something happens, next play. Let's go. We've got to move on. Positive or negative, you have to move on to the next play. Golfers call it staying in the moment. Bob Knight would refer to it as concentration. And while I didn't realize it, I learned it when I was in high school working with my father. My dad was a TV repairman and a great one. He made a very nice living, and he bought some commercial real estate. And one summer I had to work with him doing roofing work and putting new roofs on some of the properties. And part of my job was to get materials from the ground floor up to the roof. And as years go on, the roof gets a lot higher and the ladder gets longer. But I was carrying materials up and thinking I was smart. If I carried twice as much stuff, I took half the amount of trips I could get over with quicker. And I took a spill going up the ladder. And it's another one of those things where as the years go by, I was further up on the ladder when I fell. But I was really lucky that I didn't hurt myself. And when my old man came over, he was, wanted to make sure I was okay at first. And all of you who are parents know, you're worried at first that your kid's hurt, and then when you find out he's not, you want to hurt him. And so my dad said something to me that I've carried with me every day since, and I don't think he realized it, that he was being so profound at the time. But he said, will you think about what you're doing while you're doing it? You can't get to the top of that ladder in one step, but you can get to the bottom in one step. Concentrate. And I started thinking about that we all have goals, and my goal was the top of that ladder. But I didn't put enough into the process of reaching my goal. and thinking about the process, that each rung of that ladder was really important. Because when I made a mistake, and I did, I found myself at the bottom. So I could think about the top all I wanted to. I needed to be in the moment and think about and concentrate on what I was doing while I was doing it. And I've made a concentrated effort since then to do as good a job as I can do of that. And Coach K was really good with that every single day, with that next play mentality. And I say that every single day, next play, next play. My kids get tired of hearing it. They do something wrong, I'm like, next play, let's move on. The next is empathy. You cannot be a great teammate without empathy, without understanding what your teammates are going through. We all rode team buses, and we all got to the same destination on that bus, but our ride was not always the same. That different teammates are going through different things while you're on that ride. And how can you help a teammate be better if you don't know what they're going through? So having the empathy to think outside of yourself and to understand what your teammates are going through is the essence of what a great teammate is about. And when you think about it, you know, Coach K was the one that taught me how to be a good teammate. I don't think anybody before that had really taught me that except through maybe some experience or osmosis or whatever. And I think about that a lot. And listening to everyone tonight, you can tell this community here in Blair County understands what it means to be a great teammate and to think outside of yourselves and have empathy for others. And I think often about empathy as being what your priorities are. You know, if your priorities are yourself first, you're not going to be a great teammate. That's not what empathy means, thinking about yourself first. It means thinking about others first. And, you know, I hear Jeff Van Gundy say this a lot, and it's something I've adopted. Your decisions reveal your priorities. That every decision you make, your priorities are very clear to everyone when you make that decision. And the last thing I want to leave you with is something that I was fortunate enough, and this is where the 35-year relationship with Coach K, one of the ways it's been so beneficial. He's now the coach of the United States Olympic team. And so every once in a while, I get a chance to go out to Las Vegas and watch the team practice or be around some of the things that he does. And I've gotten a chance to learn a tremendous amount through that. And it was last summer, I was out in Vegas, and I was waiting for Coach K to go to I was going to go to a leadership conference where I was going to moderate a leadership conference with Jerry Colangelo, Coach K, and Martin Dempsey, General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That made a lot of sense for me to be there. But before we went, Coach K was going to have a team meeting with the Olympic team. And so he said, hey, why don't you come in, kind of sit in the back and listen. And I can't tell you how much I've learned in situations like that where he said, hey, come on in and sit in the back. So I went in, and he had it was the last meeting of the team before they were going to play an exhibition game at the Thomas and Mack Center. And then everybody was going to go home. And one of the things that he did was he gave them the schedule for the day, and then he left them with this. He said that when you guys get back to your hotel rooms now, there's going to be something in there for you. It's going to be your uniform. It's going to your USA jersey, and you know your sweats and everything. And he says, when you get back to your room, I want you to take a moment, and I want you to just look at it and think about the first time you got a uniform like this, the first time you got your high school uniform. For those of you that went to college, the first time you put on your college uniform, or the first time you put on your first time you got an NBA uniform or played in the All-Star game. He said, and I just want you to look at it and remember how cool this is. That we get opportunities to do things that very few people ever get a chance to do. And sometimes you can think that this is routine, that this is just what we do. And then he said something really profound. He said, don't take special for granted. Don't take special for granted. I think about that all the time now. I get a chance to do games for ESPN that I would have walked 20 miles in the snow to do 20 years ago. And now it's something I get to do week after week after week. I go to these games and I look around and I go, how great is this? How special is this? Don't take special for granted. And I also had a really good friend named Skip Prosser. And there's another good friend here, Jeff Nix, who was very close to Skip. And Skip used to say something quite often. He would say, "Don't delay gratitude." I can tell you, being here this evening, I do not take special for granted. This is a special community. You've honored some very special people, and I think from being here, I can't tell you how grateful I am that you invited me into your community for this evening and allowed me to be just a very small part in the corner, because it's been incredibly special for me. And congratulations to all the inductees and the scholarship awardees, and thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor.